Hey everyone, how are you doing? Hope everybody's doing super well. So, I got an insane update recently, and not a whole lot of people are talking about this. There's a couple of different updates that have come out on Facebook recently, and they're 100% changing the way that we run meta ads. Quick background and context on me and who I am. Hi, I'm Vinny Dominguez. I have been running ads for 6+ years. I originally started running ads by getting a $30,000 SBA loan and creating my own nootropic supplement for gamers. So I started in e-commerce. Before that, I had worked with my parents' janitorial business, helped them build that up, and I wasn't used to the online digital advertising world. That was around 2019. So when I came into running my own ads, I first started with one of my mentors, Peter. What he said to me was, hey, run a likes campaign so you could pump up those likes and get a lot of people coming in, and then you can retarget those people with your supplement. Well, as the years passed, I did my best to try to get Triumph, which was the name of the nootropic, to grow and scale. And in 2022, February 2022, I ended up closing it. But before that, I had opened up an agency and running Facebook ads for a multitude of different clients. Now, it's a little bit different when you're running ads for clients, but what the key difference is that I learned was I understood the whole ecosystem of the e-com game, so I got really, really good at that. And other people just had what I would say is better marketing than I did at that time. Because of this, I was able to spend tens of millions of dollars since starting not only the agency, but also my own e-commerce product, Triumph, right? That nootropic. And I have personally spent $300,000 of my own money on Meta through info products, low ticket info products, and $7 to $47. I currently still run ads with my own money for an info product that is my own. It's the Mad Method. And for Triumph, right, running ads to that nootropic, to that Shopify store. Book a call funnels, VSL funnels, wrote those funnels, did all that work. So I've been there, I've done that. And this update that I see right now for Facebook is one of the biggest updates that I've ever seen on Facebook. And it's something that a lot of creative strategists and a lot of high-level marketers have been discussing for a long period of time. So without further ado, I'll dive right into it. So there have been 4 new things that have been rolled out, somewhat in sequential order, some dating back to 2023. A lot of it that hasn't been talked about. One of them is Andromeda, right? And how this works, it's the concierge. That's what Facebook calls it. It is pretty much the gatekeeper. So how this works, simplified, is that when you put your ads into Facebook, you put it into your actual campaign, Andromeda is the actual gatekeeper that looks at those ads and say, is this ad worthy enough to enter in the auction at all, right? And if it's not, then what it will do is try to enter in the auction one more time. And if it doesn't enter in the auction the second time, then it probably just might not even get any spend, it might even enter the auction. Now, there's a lot of nuance around this, right? Because the question you could ask is, well, what happens if these ads are still getting spend? Right. So what happens is if they're still getting spend, but they enter in the auction and they enter in the lower part of the auction, which means there's like 3 stages of the auction that it can enter into, technically speaking. One of the stages is your prime real estate. So you're getting all the $1 million, those clients that come in they're high quality clients, they have great AOVs, they have strong lifetime values. They are really high quality leads. They tend to book a call, right? They're your high purchasers. They tend to spend the most money with you. That's your prime real estate. If it wins in that auction, then you go and compete for that. If it struggles to enter in the auction, but it still enters in the auction, Andromeda will actually put it and try to get signal from Facebook and Meta and the behaviors. And what it will actually do is it will have lower quality leads or people or customer or data coming through. So the type of ads that get into that real estate, what happens is that Facebook will actually somewhat throttle your ability to get into the prime real estate, which sucks. I mean, that's why you want to make great ads, right? But you'll get mostly link clicks, people who don't have intent to buy. Then the last one, it might not even enter in the auction. It might just stay there, but Facebook will try to do something with it, try to get to spend somehow, some shape, some form. That's Andromeda. Then, and by the way, I'm not going this in order, guys. I've been researching this for the past week or so, and I find it to be the most interesting update that Meta has ever created. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. That's why I'm creating this YouTube video, because I feel that right now I can kind of get it out to you guys. And as I test and do more, I can really start to understand and continue to break it all down for you so that I'm able to give you precise analysis on what to do next and a really clear understanding of how it all works. I'm getting a really good, clear understanding of how it all works, but I definitely want to see it more in action. And I don't think that there's anybody out there who's talking about these next couple of things. So the other one is Gem. Meta Gem is your generative ads recommendation model. So the role of this is a personalized ad matching at massive scale. Meta's analogy is this: it's a super brain reading an entire library and connecting the dots instantly. How I've thought about Gem is, if you guys remember when back in 2019, you're able to target people who were even financially qualified, people who sat in the bracket of $70,000, $100,000 a year, right? You can get really granular with interest targeting. That's a big way that you scale up ad accounts. You find the best interests, you find the best ads that work for those interests. And now what Facebook has done is taken away a lot of those interests, and it molded the library to this one big library and connect the dots instantly. So it's not only looking at your interests, your hobbies, but it's also looking at how you interact with the actual platform itself. Meaning that if you're someone who sees an ad for fitness and it's a high contrast ad and it has this hook, a guilty motion on the hook, and you do that multiple times, Facebook will start to recognize that. So that's what Gem does, right? So how it works is that it's trained on trillions of data points across platforms, creatives, and user behavior. It uses a multi-model data like text, images, videos, sentiment, clickstream to understand what your ad is saying, who will most likely engage with it, and when to show it for maximum outcome. It optimizes for conversion probability plus ad relevance, and it does it in real-time speed. So what does this actually mean for your account? Because this is the question that I always ask. That means that creative selection is more tightly personalized than ever. That means what works for one audience segment might not work for another, right? We know something about Facebook. Facebook is really good at creating audience segments, and as marketers, we call them lookalikes, right? So we're so accustomed to creating custom lookalikes, right? 1 to 5%, right? We understand that the higher the percentage, the further it is from the audience segment, the broader we're going. But what Gem does is that it selects a creative more tightly and more personalized than ever. And it works for that one audience segment, but won't work for another, but it defines that really early on. So sometimes you may see your ads will actually win from unexpected formats or placements, things that you didn't think was going to win, and it just does really well. And so this means that on your account, you have to have a lot of high volume creative diversity. I've been talking about creative diversity for about a year and a half now. You have to have creative diversity inside of your ad account. And Gem just says, yeah, you absolutely do. This needs to happen inside of your ad account. And creative diversity means, simply put, having different angles, different formats, different emotions. So what it can do is increases that match rate with the audience segment. And so that Gem can roll out that creative specifically to that targeted audience segment based on previous behavior, right? And this means that, and there's a huge argument here that everybody has, and I love this argument. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And it's like this: should I do creative quality or creative volume? And the answer is both. You need volume to determine quality, right? So you need to be able to test so that you can then identify what is a high quality creative and then recreate that at scale. Because with Gem, fewer creatives equals less optimization opportunities. So you need creative volume to enter in these auctions more frequently. And then you need to identify the best performers. Then when you identify those best performers, you create quality, diverse iterations of that. Not iterations of that, not just changing the font, not just changing the color of the background, not just changing the hook and keeping the exact same. You make diverse versions of it, right? So the next thing to go into is Meta Lattice. And I call it Lattice. I think it's hilarious. But really what it is, it's the generalized ranking infrastructure. As simply put, its role is to get all the learnings, right? Takes all the learnings and tries to understand how it works and identify the different campaign objectives, how it works across different placements, and then it transfers that learning to apply to the patterns that's actually going inside of Facebook, and it applies it in different places. So what does this look up for your account? If you're running multiple campaign types, performance in one can affect the others. My thought process here is, my theory, my hypothesis is that if you have 3 accounts and one of them is absolutely struggling, because of Lattice, it can actually affect the other ones. And something that was said that I thought was super, super interesting is that a strong retargeting campaign can boost top of funnel ad delivery. And a failing lead gen campaign can suppress the delivery system wide, which means if a lead generation campaign isn't doing well, the entire account can get affected. And that's massive, right? It could throttle that whole entire thing. And so one also really big benefit of this is that creative usability is not rewarded. If an ad performs well in one objective, Lattice will take those learnings and carry it over to the other campaigns. So back to the analogy of the retargeting campaign, because of that retargeting campaign, it does really well. It can boost the top of funnel ad delivery, making it so that your performance overall, account wide or system wide, works really, really well, which is absolutely wonderful. So what you should consider doing here is that you standardize your creative process across different funnel stages. By the way, I'll talk to you about this. I think this is super interesting because it does have a really big implication here. And then you want to audit your underperforming objectives carefully because they could be dragging down the other campaigns. And what you're looking for here is a consolidation of your ad account so that it can carry the learnings over that in those just 1 or 2 campaigns so that you can get increased learnings so that you can continue to scale up your account so that it gets more signal coming into it. And it increases the signal integrity as well. Well, awesome. One of the big ones that I love, and this is probably the one I'm most excited for, the one that I want to test the most, is sequence learning. And it's the journey aware optimization system. That's one of the craziest things I've heard, right? And yeah, I had to read that one because I'm going, oh my gosh, that this is a big one, right? For me, it's a big one. And what it does is it converts behavior timelines into future prediction, right? So every single person that's inside of Facebook, they have a very specific user behavior, right? Facebook tracks all of this. We are all unique as we all have our own unique behaviors inside of the platform. And that's exactly what sequence learning does. It actually works as a memory game. It tries to understand what people do before and after seeing your ad. So a good example of this is someone will have this interaction. Again, going back to my analogy of the person who clicks on an ad for fitness that is a high contrast ad that has that guilt hook on it, right? And it says that Facebook tracks that user behavior. And that's something they do before they see your ad. And then they scroll a little bit down. Then they see your ad. And it resonates with them. And they go, okay, well, Facebook says this is what happened before they saw that ad. Then they saw that ad. Then they clicked. And then what happens after? Meaning that what's happening on your landing page will matter more now than ever. Because if Facebook sees that people are bouncing off of your landing page and it sees it's having a poor user experience after going to your landing page, Facebook will then throttle your ads in the auction because it doesn't believe that it will bring value to the end user. That's super important to keep in mind. So how the sequence learning works, right? So again, back to the analogy, and I'm saying this twice, I know, because this is probably my favorite thing. I think it's super exciting to see, is a user saw the ad, then they scrolled, then they saw the video, and they saw a different video, maybe it wasn't even an ad, then they clicked on the video, and then they kind of came back later, right, on the ad platform, Then they saw the ad again, and then they clicked on the actual shop now button, and then they converted. So that's a multi-step function there. So that's what it does. So before sequence learning, each step was treated independently, but now Meta sees it as the story arc, right? They see it as this journey, as this buyer and customer journey. So what sequence does is that it has multi-step personalization, meaning that the future ads are shaped by what happened previously. And Facebook analyzed that based on user behavior. So now more than ever, guys, it is so important to understand user behavior in the way that you speak to your audience and the way that you craft ads for them. Because with all of this combined, so with Andromeda, your ads will get filtered before they even enter the auction. That's one. With Gem, what is going to happen is that your ads are going to be in this position where it's going to be pulling all the data from the different formats inside of it, right? It's going to match that to the person, and it's going to connect the dots instantly, and who's most likely going to engage with it. So you have to do all this pre-work before you even get to getting even into the auction, which is insane. But what it does is it's really good because it can increase the probability of you actually getting conversions because it delivers it to the right person at the right time that has the right frame of mind inside of the ad account. And then you have Lattice, right? Which is that giant library that I was talking about, which it applies the learning system-wide, which is account-wide, which is actually really good because if you have multiple campaigns, let's say that you have a control campaign that's doing really well and an ABO campaign that's testing, and you have some of those that are really doing well, and you scale those up, well, what's going to happen is that it will take those learnings and then it will apply it to the system-wide, which is really good because no longer are these objectives being treated in isolation or individually. They're being treated combined, which it increases the data signal and the signal clarity and the signal integrity for your actual ad account. And then you have the sequence learning, which I believe is one of the most impactful ones because there's a strategy that I want to implement here. And I'll talk about that in the next video. But this is going to be your journey aware optimization. This is seriously how Facebook predicts behaviors on the user platform, right? So if you think about this, a good analogy would be Netflix, right? Netflix, they say, hey, you liked this show. And you go, yes. Well, then I recommend this show. And I go, yes, and I also recommend this show. And because you liked this show, I'm going to use Dragon Ball Z because I like anime. Because you like Dragon Ball Z, you might also like this other anime. And you might also like this other anime. And that's what it does, right? It talks about the behavior and the user behavior. And then from that user behavior, it will give it a sequence and decide where does your ad fit in that sequence, which is incredible. Because there's a way we can actually create a different type of campaign structure with this type of sequence, because you could actually be able to structure a campaign like this. And I've been messing with this so much. It's super cool. Is campaign, so your testing campaign, then you have your ad set, right? Then you have your ad set budget optimization for that one for creative testing. Inside that ad set, you actually must start thinking in sequences, like what's going to happen as in the customer journey that's going to happen inside of that ad set. So example is here, ad 1 is a belief that they have. Ad 2 is going to be a pain that they have. Ad 3 is going to be a testimonial of how you help someone through that pain. And ad 4 is going to be a call to action. So it's actually going to be a mini funnel inside of Facebook that is going to be based on your creatives. And because of that, it will start to learn in which sequence it will give the person. So sometimes you can see ad 4 and then ad 1 and then ad 3 and then they convert. That's how it's going to look. It's no longer going to be linear. My analogy that I came up for this is, let's say that you're in the stock market. You find one stock that's always blowing up, right? And it blows up for a certain period of time, but then it really dies down. So that's your one big individual ad. right? That's no longer how Facebook is working. Facebook's not looking at this as individually anymore. It's looking at this holistically as a sequence, as a diverse sequence of things that are happening to really amplify the ad account structure. So it's the difference between having a one stock that just explodes and then dies out after, so that's your one ad that dies out after, versus having a diverse portfolio in the stock market with, let's say, the S&P 500, where it's consistent and lacks and doesn't have that massive drop in volatility. Sometimes you'll see that drop, but it doesn't have that. So that's exactly what Facebook has been thinking about it. So you don't want to treat Facebook just like the stock market, right? Again, it's just an analogy. It doesn't, Meta's not going to reward people who are gambling, who are going to throw stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks. It's going to reward people who are building out systems and understanding the behaviors of the user inside of that platform. And it's going to reward those people more than ever now. And that's how it's going to work. So that's something that we need to start thinking about, right? So a couple of things, guys. This is super fun. It is really incredible to see how everything is going to be shaping out, because I do believe that with the stuff being rolled out, it will actually change the landscape. And one last comment for everybody to think about. Guys, AI can now make creatives. We are literally competing for people's attention. If we don't understand where their attention goes and their behavior and work alongside Facebook, then what's going to happen? We will shoot ourselves in the foot. It is just how it's going to work. Facebook is not going to reward the throw it against the wall and hope it sticks. They're not going to reward blindly throwing a dart and seeing if we hit the bullseye. They're going to reward people who understand user behavior inside of the platform and built out sequential, literally mini funnels inside of Facebook. And so that they can identify what sequence will actually get someone to convert and which ads enter the auction, which ads enter the auction, the prime real estate, which ads will be matched with which users and which behavioral profiles, and then feeding all that data back into the account so that it has a holistic view of how everything actually works and what's benefiting the other. There's a lot more nuance on this, but I thought this was super important to discuss. And let me know in the comments all the questions you guys have, because I will create a lot of videos around this. I have so much that I've been going through that I think would absolutely crush for you guys coming into 2025. I know this video was super raw and super unfiltered, but my goal was to get this information out to everybody here, because I truly believe that this can help you guys win 110% in 2025 and be different than everybody else and see some consistency and less volatility in your account. So, till next time.